remember December 7th, 1941?
Absolutely.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
It was a Sunday, and us Greek boys had a bowling team. And we were bowling Sunday in the league. And it was about 1 o'clock. And somebody said something about, hey, did you hear they bombed Pearl Harbor? And I didn't pay much attention. Then somebody else mentioned, well, this is serious. And I didn't first grasp it. And then somebody said, well, this could mean we could go to war. And then it dawned on me. And then I said to somebody, oh, where's Pearl Harbor? I had no idea what Pearl Harbor was about. And then, the word starts, we all start talking about it. And what I do remember after that night, I went to the movies. I can't tell you what was playing, but I went to the movies. But the next day, I went to school. Now, I lived up over the Texas Hot, and it was about 12 blocks away. So I had physics in the morning, and my physics teacher was my football coach. Start talking about what happened at Pearl Harbor. And he said, most of you young boys are 16 and you'll never go to see the war, to go to it, because it'll be all over by the time you get to be of age to serve or to be part of it. But he said, I want you to know that a lot of young people are going over there. But he says, we'll finish that war off in 3 or 4 months. We'll surround the island. It won't take very long to get it over with. And I felt a whole lot better that the war was going to be over. Because I was thinking, I'm not sure I want to go to war. So, seriously. But I remember that we got off to have lunch, and so we could go home for dinner. And I was anxious because I wanted to get back to turn on my Philco radio to listen to President Roosevelt give his speech to Congress and declare war on Japan. And I ran home all the way, and I listened to the speech. I can remember that speech, the words, and Roosevelt finished, so help me God.
With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
When he finished his speech, and I was running late, and I ran all the way back to school. But that's one of the great moments that stands still, I remember.
To continue that, you graduated from Wellsville High School, Did you get drafted or did you enlist?
Well, I'll tell you a story. My age were two Greek boys in the same class. One was Charlie Raptis. He was my age. He was a partner in the Texas Hot and my distant cousin, so we grew up together. The other was a young Greek boy named Johnny Ninas. His dad had a restaurant in Bolivar. And we were both seniors in high school. And it so happened, on this particular Sunday, we had a Sons of Pericles meeting in Wellsville. Afterwards, Johnny and Charlie and I were talking. And we were saying, well, you know, we'll be graduating in a few months, and we'll all be drafted. What's your plans? And what are we thinking? And so we start talking, and Charlie said, well, he says, you know, I have a dream. I want to become a doctor. And so he says, if I get drafted and go in the Army, I don't get a choice of what branch to go in, what part. But if I volunteer for the Navy, I can choose to go in the medical corps, and might be a good background for me to get into a medical school when the war is over. So Charlie chose the Navy. Johnny Nino said, well, I'm choosing the Navy because I don't want to end up in the infantry where all the casualties are. And it's too dangerous. Besides, if I, on a carrier or something, I got a bunk, I get a meal, I don't have to dig a foxhole, and that. So both of them chose to go in the Navy. I didn't do anything. And when I graduated, 2 weeks later, I got my draft call to welcome Uncle Sam. So we all left for the service. And the sad part of it is it always comes back to you, and I always think about that. What was meant to be, and someplace God had a purpose. But Johnny Ninas lost his life. He was on an aircraft carrier on a kamikaze attack. So John was killed. Charlie lost his life at Normandy preparing a week before because he was on a PT boat. The PT boat was hit by a German sub, and Charlie lost his life. So both of them lost their lives. And I ended up in the infantry. I came back and they didn't. Figure it out. I was in the armored infantry. Okay, we drove. So I was a PFC, just a rifleman, and missed Normandy, landed in France, went through France, went through Belgium, crossed the Rhine, went through Germany, and ended up in Salisbury, Austria, when the war was over.
The BBC Home Service. We're interrupting programs to make the following announcement. It is understood that in accordance with arrangements between the three great powers, An official announcement will be broadcast by the Prime Minister at 3 o'clock tomorrow. In view of this fact, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be treated as Victory in Europe Day.
Well, we knew it was coming close, and we were all anxious, but until it happened, it was. So one day, I was sitting on a half track. We were in the border between Austria, and I was sitting on our half track, our vehicle. It was a nice sunny day, and somebody drove up in a Jeep, threw me a can of beer, and said, "The war's over."
Oh, wow.
And that was the. But the real excitement came because when the war was over with Japan, because our division got reassigned for the invasion. We were earmarked for the first divisions, one the first to hit the coast, and when the bomb went off. We were assigned to be trained in California.
Yeah.
So I was assigned to California. But when we came back from Europe, I was given 30 days furlough. So I went to Wellsville, and when I was in Wellsville, the bomb was dropped. And so for that celebration, I witnessed what was going down in my hometown.
San Francisco, the International News Service. FCC quotes Domai saying Japan accepts Allied terms. Repeating this bulletin, dated San Francisco, the Federal Communication Commission quotes Domai saying Japan accepts Allied terms.
Well, it was just all kinds of horns and noise, and cars were running, and you could hear them, the cars going from house to house. You knew that everybody was moving, going to parties. You know, it was just an extraordinary feeling of relief and just letting out so much. So much had happened. So much in the past. You saw so many of your friends not come back, sacrifices being made all over, and the war, we never knew when it was going to end. Yeah, it was one of those things that I don't know as I can ever express what was going on. The thing was to move fast. And so we were out front, and the war was starting to end. You could tell the German army had been pretty much defeated, but they hadn't surrendered at that time. And our mission was to liberate Munich, Germany. And as we were approaching Munich, and we had resistance, and I won't go into where the resistance came in a side story, but when we finished our mission and things had settled down, we were bivouacked outside of Dachau. And in those days, at least for me, I was just a 19-year-old kid then, I heard and read about things like concentration camps, but it was still not really in my mind that concentration really existed because they were talked about. But, you know, there was a division between the news, what we got from American papers, and we really didn't know too much about what was happening. But anyway, we were outside of Dachau, and on this particular day, we were right next to a railroad siding, and there became a train that was coming out of the camp, Dachau, the concentration camp. And it was what you call a freight car. And the doors were open in the freight car, and there were these strange-looking people to me, and I couldn't understand who they were. They looked like people from an outer world. And they came in these striped uniforms, and they looked like skeletons. They didn't look like human beings. So my mind did, who are they? And then somebody said, well, I don't know. We were just guys up front, you know. And so finally the word came, I think they came from the concentration camp. And then we started to put things together that we were at Dachau. Now, some of the other fellows, our division was the first one. And there's a plaque at Dachau that says the 20th Armored Division liberated Dachau. And so some of us went in, but I didn't. I never got inside the gate. I just saw them coming out on the train. One side story I do enjoy saying is that my grandchildren, some of them, were going to Germany. And they didn't know much about World War II, and they never asked too much. And every time I mentioned anything, they didn't seem to have too much, okay, you went to war with, that's nice of you, and we're proud of you. So I said, now, when you go to Germany, I hope that you go towards Munich, and if you get a chance, visit Dachau, because we liberated Dachau, and I'm pretty proud of it. And the impression I got from the children, they weren't listening too much. But when they got to Germany and they got to Munich, they decided, well, we'll go to visit Dachau like Dad wanted to. And when they got to Dachau, one of the first things they saw was a plaque that said 20th Armored Division was the first division to liberate Dachau. And they said, wow, Dad was really here. I guess the one thing that occurs to me is that the sacrifices and united that this country was. We were one. And we were one nation. And the enthusiasm at the home front to change this from an economy based on material things to an wartime economy, start building tanks and airplanes, and the women going to work in a factory and all of that. But combined with that is the drive that the young people had, that I have to go, I want to be part of this. And tied to that is that when I visit Normandy and I look over those monuments, the Star David, the crosses, beautiful marble, and the coast, and what happened at Normandy, what I sense, and I look at it, my God, most of these people are just young men that are buried here. 18, 19, what? It's just amazing. That's what stays in my mind.